welcome to another episode of the
Geek
Buddies!
Hey! Oh.
Somebody's phone's buzzing.
Yeah, somebody pick up their phone for God's sakes.
That was me.
Yeah, I had a feeling. Welcome back, everybody, to a brand new episode of the Geek Buddies this week. Brought to you by the great people at Carbon Health, a power and sponsor us here in the Outlaw Nation. Oh, there you go. If you want to go get some health care taken care of, please head over to carbonhealth.com. They got 100 plus locations across the United States, 50 plus locations in California alone, virtual care, in-person care. If you need tests for COVID or whatever, so the numbers are rising. So they are offering great test packs at your local clinic that you can get for a good price. But if you want to go get tested there, you can do that as well. They've done over 2 million tests. And please download the app so you can find the local Carbon Health place near you. All right, let's introduce ourselves. I am the Outlaw, John Rocha, joined as always by these two gentlemen, Michael.
I am Michael Vogel. I'm a writer and producer of animated TV shows and movies, and I am a mess right now. My phone ringing. I'm spilling things all over the place. Oh, guys, it's a week. It's a week.
It's a week, all right. Shannon McClung, how are you, Shannon?
I'm okay, Johnny. This is Shannon McClung. I'm an animation writer and a television actor where you may have seen me on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Silicon Valley, and the Goldbergs, and the new show that's going to come out this fall called Butterfingers.
Hey-o.
It's weird that I'm the one that's going to be in that.
Written and produced by Shannon McClung. Sorry, Michael Vogel. Is that your Diet Coke? Do you need some more Diet Coke to make it through the show?
Just listen, everybody. Just keep going. Just keep rolling. We're doing it live.
Yeah,
we're doing it live.
Well, we're not doing it live, but you can go get the Coke if you want as we're going through this. But for those of you who are new to the Geek Buddies, thank you so much for taking a chance on our show. For those of you who coming back every week, thank you so much for staying fans of our show. The way it works is that each of us brings up a geek news item once we finish wiping up the Diet Coke off our desks, and we talk about it amongst ourselves for your entertainment and your pleasure. Then we take a quick break and jump into our main topic. And our main topic, of course, is Thor Love and Thunder, that show that dropped on Monday during the NBA playoffs, finally showing us Gore the God Butcher, a little more with Natalie Portman, and some random Eastern European accent from Russell Crowe, I think. We're going to talk about all of that and even some of the Easter eggs through the trailer as well in our main discussion. So, but Michael Vogel, you start us off. What do you got?
Well, I got a really wet desk right now. But in addition to that, we are about to dive into the next season of Stranger Things. And from all reports, we are diving in to a whole heck of a lot of Stranger Things. Everyone has a lot of thoughts on these run times that are coming out. Now, usually we get really excited about longer run times. Like usually when it comes to these Marvel shows or these Star Wars shows, we get really upset and when they're not giving us a lot, we always want a little bit more. But Stranger Things is really giving it to us. The first 6 episodes are all more or less the same. They're about an hour and 15 minutes or so. Episode 7, hour and 38 minutes. Episode 8, hour and 25 minutes. And then episode 9, a whopping 2 hours and 30 minutes. Episode 9 is almost as long as Avengers Endgame. So that is one hell of a finale. Now, as one of my friends said on Twitter, I don't know why they didn't think that there was maybe some place in episode 9 where they could maybe cut it in half and give us an episode 10, but apparently this is the way they're rolling it out. It's a lot of split opinions. Some people are thrilled. Some people are like the more the merrier. Some people are feeling those last couple, particularly episode 9, a little excessive. Proof is in the pudding for me, but what do you guys think?
I think it's great. I love the idea of getting more Stranger Things. Hey, if you're wrapping up the series, let's not leave any stone unturned. What have been the big complaints about Lost and about Game of Thrones?
There's another season after this, isn't there? I mean,
there's
one more. Yeah, this isn't wrapping up the series. This is just...
Okay, fair enough. So then maybe we're losing some characters. I just have a feeling we're not going to have the same amount going into the next season. I think some people are moving on, going to college, what have you. These are all, did you see Millie Bobby Brown? That ain't an 11-year-old girl anymore, ladies and gentlemen. That is a woman coming out on the red carpet. She is stating her case. Don't look at me as a little girl anymore. I am a woman now. So you're seeing them change and progress and grow. Finn Wolfhard, Matarazzo, all of them just changing and growing. And so maybe coming back to play these kids, but maybe in the 9th season they come back and it's a kind of a more adult approach to horror. That's certainly possible here because certainly here in the 1980s vibe, that you're getting from this season of Stranger Things is a little more mature than we've gotten before. So this is going to be interesting to see. But the longer run times, I kind of like. That means you can cover everything. The big complaints, as I was saying earlier, about Game of Thrones and about Lost was they didn't address everything and they kind of sped through everything. And yes, those were final seasons, but either way, you didn't address everything. And I feel like with this extra runtime, they're going to address everything. If by the end of this runtime and all these episodes, there's something left on the table that they didn't quite address or fully flesh out, that's an issue. So I like that we're getting these runtimes and get to sink into less episodes, more runtimes. I'm cool with that. Shannon?
I think this is what we all wanted going into the last season of Game of Thrones. This is something that we would have looked at and been like, "Oh, fantastic!" The crazy thing about it is, obviously a 2.5-hour finale.
Yeah.
For any series, like that's huge. That's massive. The fact that there is about 600 minutes of story before that is pretty insane. Stranger Things is one of those shows that, my wife and I, we would watch at night, and by the end we're both starting to doze a little bit. So as all of these episodes get a little bit longer, I feel like there's going to be a lot of 2-part viewing starting in the evening and finishing first thing in the morning. But you know what? I mean,
maybe for you, Grandpa.
Oh, really? Are we really going to ding me for falling asleep during television? Oh, look, sir, I watched seasons with you.
I've already noticed that my texts after 9:30 don't get returned until the next morning. I've already noticed the early sleep time of Shannon McClung.
Well, sure, but also Michael Vogel has perfected the Midwestern dad. Oh, just resting my eyelids. Just resting my eyelids. He's been doing that for 10 years.
It's the nodding. It's the nodding.
Yeah. I'm watching. But that being said, I thought the 3rd season of Stranger Things was really, really great. I mean, I was kind of mixed on season 2, and obviously I really liked season 1. So I think they've got really exciting places to go in terms of storytelling, and judging by the runtimes, they clearly have a lot of real estate. So yeah, stranger, longer things apparently.
Well,
yeah, we'll see. Sometimes I think given the runway to tell all the story you want, maybe sometimes you tell a little too much story. Kind of early buzz is seeing that like maybe things get a little too meandering. So it'll just be interesting to see. Like, is this going to be holy shit? They absolutely needed all that real estate. That was an epic story. Or are we going to get done with it and be like, this was really great. You could have cut some stuff out and gotten it down. It'll be interesting to see. But I'm definitely stoked. I am very anxious to dive into another season. I've loved all 3 seasons, so I'm on board and ready to rock.
It feels like it's been around longer than 3 seasons, doesn't it? It just feels like it's been part of our pop culture life for quite some time. Maybe because there's such a gap between the seasons that it feels like it's been around longer than 3 seasons. But I don't know if you guys got a chance to see those first 8 minutes that dropped last week, I think on Friday of last week. They were great. I mean, a great 8 minutes that lets you know that this is going in a very strong, mature direction. There was a lot of blood and gore in those 8 minutes, and there was a de-aged 11, which I thought I haven't seen a de-aged into a child type thing. I mean, that's been weird to see. There's some de-aging in the 2nd season of Only Murders in the Building, and that's a little rough to watch at times. So de-aging a teenager back to a child, that was some interesting stuff to see for sure. So I'm curious to see how much more deeper they're going to go, and I like that in those first 8 minutes we got to see Matthew Modine's character, Kittredge. Oh, no, not Kittredge. That's Mission Impossible. I forget the doctor's name, but like we got to see him from a different point of view than we saw him in season 1, which I thought was great. Oh, thank you, honey. All right. I got my own Diet Coke here, my own Diet Coke delivery service.
Hold on to it. Hold on to it tightly.
Anyway, I've got the Mugger Beer Stein. Hello. All right. Anyway, so I'm very excited to see the extra runtime and what more we're going to get. If it goes down the style that we saw in the first 8 minutes. Did you guys get a chance to see them?
I didn't see it. I wanted to wait.
I deliberately avoided it. Yeah, I'm curious if we're going to get the Scoops Ahoy origin episode and how it ultimately connects. How it ultimately connects to the Upside Down.
I forgot about the Scoops Ahoy edition. Is there anything? I don't know. We got. Let's do a couple more minutes. Is there anything you guys want to see from this season that you've seen teased in the trailers, or that you've been like waiting to see besides the Scoops Ahoy episode, the bottle episode of Scoops Ahoy? Is there anything you guys are looking forward to seeing here in this new season?
Well, I think the fact that they've actually, based off of that teaser, I mean, they've given a face to a upside down big bad. Because in the past, it's always been the creatures. It's been, you know, the dogs and you know, the flower head people, which the name is escaping me right now. But the fact that you actually have a face for your supernatural villain rather than just like you know, Matthew Modine or you know, the other scientists. I mean, the fact that you will have what is in storytelling a big bad, it seems, that's really interesting.
Yeah, I'm just excited about seeing, like, you know, where these characters are going. As you said, you know, they're getting older. It's not, you can't really hide that. And so just seeing how the story evolves around that, where the story is taking them. You know, I mean, when this show started out, to your point, like, we've had like bigger gaps between it, and they were all just little kids and they're all growing up. And so, you know, knowing that this is the season before the final season, just sort of seeing what this sets up and seeing where they land on all this. I think they've done such a great job of kind of taking this thing that a lot of people looked at as sort of just like, oh, well, it's all nostalgia, it's all the retro stuff, and really building this compelling story. So seeing them sort of take through the season and then hopefully stick the landing in the final season, like, I don't have anything specific, but I'm just really, each season I'm always curious about them maintaining that balance of that sort of classic 80s childhood innocence with the horror that they're building into it. Like, it's a balancing act, and they've, you know, some people feel like season 2 they didn't quite maintain that, but most people feel like with season 1 and season 3 they did. So I'm just curious to see where they go.
Oh, John,
I'm also curious to hear you because you are on mute.
Sorry, I didn't want to have you hear the Diet Coke mic and torture you. I'm more kind of focused on the relationships and how they're changing. You know, we see, you know, one of the kids playing basketball. We see the other two kids, the nerds, cheering on as he's becoming an athlete. What are the divisions that happen there? You know, we've all gone through those progressions where, like, we're all friends in middle school or we're all friends in elementary school, and then all of a sudden things start to change and go in different directions. I want to see how they navigate that and how authentic that feels, and if they are presenting that storyline just as a kind of occasional thing that distracts one of them, or if they're opening that storyline up to have really discussions about growing up, about aging out of these times, about having different interests, about other things coming in, girlfriends, boyfriends, what have you, things of that nature. So all of that starts to open up, and I want to see more of the family life for all of them and how all the stuff that they've been doing, because at times you watch Stranger Things and you're like, who are the parents of these kids? They keep getting away or going away for long stretches of time for doing stuff. I want to see more of that kind of come into the mix here and see what more like real world issues they tackle amidst all the madness of the Upside Down. That's
crazy Winona Ryder. That's one of the parents.
Right. Oh, and David Harbour. What's Harbour's whole role in all of this too out there in Russia? What's that all about? So just really fun to see them all being in separate areas and kind of slowly migrating towards each other for one whole grand. Do you imagine at the end of the 7 episodes, they'll have all come together, and then the last 2 episodes, them taking on the huge thing?
Isn't it the first? Part 1 is the first 6 episodes, and part 2.
I thought it was first 7.
Is it the first 7?
Well, Mikey presented the story, so I defer to Michael on this.
I believe it's 6 and then it's 7, 8, and 9. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe it is 1 through 6, and then we get a 7, 8, and 9 in the back end.
So then by the 6th, then maybe they're all coming together, and then the back end is all
payoff.
Yeah, the payoff, which should be fun.
All in game, all in Stranger Things in game.
6-hour end game. And I think it has more runtime than any of the series before, so that's going to be a lot to cover for sure. All right, let's move on to our second story here, and this has to do with Black Panther 2. Certainly we reported months ago on the situation there with Letitia Wright, but it seems like everything's been squared away. Letitia Wright's now promoting it, saying it's gonna do real honor and respect to Chadwick Boseman, this sequel. But one of the things that people that have come out is that Tenoch Huerta is going to be a part of this series, and is going to be playing Namor, the Submariner. And this is coming from a number of sources, from the Illuminati, from the Direct. And they revealed that Huerta would be playing Namor, but with a twist, because Namor is from Atlantis, but they're actually going to base this Namor around the Mayan culture instead of ancient Greece. And there were supposedly 2 Mayan warriors who were going to be cast, as well as Zianya and Cadmael. And Zianya was revealed to be Namora, who is the cousin of Namor, and that's going to be played by Mexican actress Mabel Cadena. And this is what we're going to see kind of replace the Atlantis origin story. It's going to be a Mayan origin story. And there was even a picture. In fact, I'll bring it up here as I'll share my screen so that people can take a look at what they are envisioning for Black Panther here. For Namor. This is what you essentially very much kind of that feeling of being a Mayan warrior, and even being from under the water. So very interesting approach to this. Let's stop there just with the initial reaction. What do you gentlemen think about them changing the origin of Namor to be more of a Mayan-based thing? It was great. I mean, it's connected to Mexico, connected to Latino Hispanics. I'm all for it. But was this their way out of kind of connecting or being compared to Aquaman, even though apparently it's going to be a human dad and a underwater mom? Do you guys like this move overall?
Well, in terms of like Namor's backstory, like I know the broad strokes. Like I didn't know that he like the human dad, Atlantean mom, that was always Arthur Curry. That was always
Right.
Aquaman. So the fact that they changed it to that, like it I don't care about the background of that.
Okay.
Change, like if changing the ancient Greeks to the ancient Mayans, if that serves the story, fantastic.
Mhm.
I think that's super cool. And I feel like that's not the first time that's been done with Atlantis. I mean, I feel like the Disney animated Atlantis, like they didn't it wasn't outright like these were the Mayans, but I feel like the Atlantean alphabet, it definitely looked more Mayan than ancient Greece to me.
Mhm.
So I think that change makes sense. And also with the Mayans, you have sort of the mysterious decline of the Mayans, like in actual history, tying that to Atlantis. To me, I think that's, in terms of storytelling, I think that's cool fertile ground. But ultimately, we won't be able to say until it comes out. I mean, based off of that artist rendering, I think he looks cool. I mean, I'm excited to see what Huerta looks like, in real life, dressed up as Namor. I mean, all the changes, like, they make changes for the properties to be for the MCU, for the films. I mean, these are not direct interpretations of the comic book. They take what they want, they take what they need,
Right.
and they sort of jerry rig it to the story that they're telling. So ultimately, we won't know for sure until the movie comes out, but on appearance, I think those are cool ideas.
Well, they changed Black Panther's origin story, right, Michael? And we're going to see some changes to Ms. Marvel and her powers coming up real soon. And they're even moving the kingdom of what will be the kingdom of Namor to further west in the Atlantic Ocean, so
Right.
making it closer, in essence, to Wakanda on the Marvel map, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, like for Marvel and DC in the comics, like Atlantis is kind of Atlantis, and it's kind of, I don't want to say interchangeable, like there's definitely different details, but they both sort of, there's that whole thing that happened in comics where we got a Hawkeye, we got a Green Arrow, we got a Aquaman, we got a Namor. Like there's always sort of the counterpoints. And so I think doing things to make it more different and unique for the MCU totally makes sense. Will it work or will it not work? It's kind of the same as Miss Marvel's powers. Like we're not going to know until we see it. I think that what we do know is that when Marvel does decide to like double down and make something comic books accurate, they know how to do it really well. So when they deviate from that, it's not because they're afraid of going down that road. Like they've gotten into some pretty weird, like they gave us a talking raccoon and a talking tree long time before anybody, knew that they could pull that off. So they're not afraid to go down that comics accurate road. So whenever they do deviate, usually they have a good reason. And, I think that I'm really curious. What I'm curious, like for me, the most defining trait about Namor more than anything else is that he's an arrogant dick. And so for me, like, I just hope he's an arrogant dick.
Yeah.
Like that's like my main thing. Like that, as long as Namor hits those personality traits that I associate with him whenever he shows up, whether it be in X-Men or Fantastic Four or in the Illuminati, like that dude's an asshole. And so I really just hope he's an asshole. Beyond that, wherever that asshole is from,
yeah,
I am open.
Well, I don't know if you know this or had experience with this, but sometimes Latinos can be quite arrogant dicks. It can happen. So
I wasn't going to say anything, but in my experience, it felt like, I could see that happening. It felt like it was something that could exist in the universe.
But that aside, I do like that Tenoch Huerta has been cast. If you guys want to see more of his work, he's in Narcos Mexico, which I would I just started that the other day. Damn, that's a good show. So highly recommend seeing more of his work. And I think he's going to bring that aspect, Mike, which is going to make him interesting. And I wonder how much we'll have shades of Killmonger, because Killmonger was a pretty arrogant dick himself, even though, you could sense that there was some right on his side in terms of his frustration and his anger. And I wonder how much of that is going to be the initial interactions that anybody from Wakanda has with Namor until, near the end, he becomes somewhat of an anti-hero, I imagine, by the end of that movie. So going to be very fascinating. The Mayan stuff is very interesting. Look, we've seen in Moon Knight, and you're going to see in Ms. Marvel, and we saw in Shang-Chi, and Black Panther as well, there's a definite dive into the culture. And now, does it always mean you're going to get it right? No, but for the most part, I feel like they have. And so I hope with this Mayan culture, which is a little more difficult to necessarily connect to real world or current times, I'm very curious to see how they're going to approach this. Are they going to do broad brushstrokes, or are they going to look for more specificity, more stuff that's going to challenge you to go like research it and Google it and find out more about it? Because I'll tell you this right, I can't say too much about Ms. Marvel, but there is stuff in there where you will probably be motivated to go and research more. That it's spoken about just kind of happenstance and whatever, but you're going to be motivated to kind of research it a bit more. And I wonder if that's going to happen here as well. And they're bringing on historians who are well aware of the Mayan civilization and how to make it authentic.
Well, and I mean, to Shannon's point, I mean, just that it does sort of sync up with history and the Mayan civilization sort of disappearing. And just from like the rumors of what we're hearing, that this version of Atlantis that's Mayan inspired does kind of get discovered. Potentially by Riri Williams is something that some people are reporting in the story, and that Namor approaches Wakanda as they are searching for whoever's going to be their new leader, whoever's going to be the new T'Challa, and it like wants their help in remaining hidden because Wakanda was a hidden place. So I do think that this sort of hidden city that has a culture of its own does tie in very nicely to what we saw of Wakanda in the first movie, and Wakanda sort of making those initial steps into stepping out into the world, which we still don't really know where that all lands post Black Panther, because we dove right into Endgame and Infinity War and Endgame. And so we still haven't sort of picked up those threads of like, what is the world like now that people know about Wakanda, and then adding another civilization into the mix. Like that all sounds like really interesting, fertile ground for storytelling.
Agreed. Okay, well, we'll find out soon enough. Black Panther 2 on the horizon here, so we'll see as we get closer, when we get a trailer, when we get some more information about the film overall, and some first looks at Tenoch Huerta as Namor, and some of the other cast members, the new cast members as well. Riri Williams, I think, will be introduced there, right, as Ironheart before the show comes out, so that'll be fun to see as well. All right, Shannon, take us away, man. What are we on to next?
We are going to trailers. This is our first espionage-themed trailer park. Starting with something that's going to be coming to CBS this fall, I believe. It is the small screen adaptation of True Lies. So this is from Matt Nix, who's the creator of Burn Notice. Mick G directed the pilot. This is, off of James Cameron's 1994 film starring Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jamie Lee Curtis. This one is going to be starring Steve Howey from Shameless and Ginger Gonzaga, who is from TBS's Wrecked, and we're going to get to see her in She-Hulk. So we get it seems like a pretty straightforward adaptation based off of the trailer, and depending on your feelings of network TV, I know some people like it some have viewed it as sort of a dying medium, but this does not look like a project that they skimped on. So gentlemen, what did you all think of our first look at True Lies?
Like,
I thought it looked fine.
Oh.
I thought it looked okay. Like I mean, it looks like what we got. This trailer is sort of a cut down of whatever the presentation was at Upfront that was like, here's what the show is, here's the pilot. So we sort of get a sense of what the pilot is. And to your point, it does kind of follow those beats more or less of the True Lies movie. I love True Lies, the movie. I think James Cameron, like I've said many times, as Avatar 2 has come up, like I would never bet against James Cameron. But I think so much of what True Lies' charm is in Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jamie Lee Curtis. This feels like a really nice network show. Nothing about this like blew me out of the water. Nothing about this was like, oh, this really stands out. And I think to your point, in a world of Stranger Things and Moon Knights and Obi-Wan Kenobis and all, the stuff that we're getting on Apple Plus, like in the wealth of stuff that we're getting through streaming, a network show has to really, really stand out to get me super excited. And this looked like a perfectly fine CBS network show. I'll check it out. It looks cute, but like nothing about this really like got me excited. Like, oh, True Lies on the small screen. I can't wait. I'm like, yeah, okay, we'll see.
Well, I'm on the other side of this. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was great. That movie is a little troublesome now looking back on that movie for a couple of reasons. But, I know people love it. It's a great Arnold Schwarzenegger performance. Certainly a lot of fun. There's some great tongue-in-cheek moments there, especially with him and Tom Arnold. But I liked the vibe of this. You can tell there's a genuine chemistry and connection between them. And that's what's really going to sell the show is their connection. All the other stuff is fun and the mystery and the espionage, all that. But once it gets revealed in the trailer that she finds out he's a spy, what you do with that going forward, that's easy to conceal that in or contain that in a movie. Carrying that over into episode, it can get old. So I'm wondering how they're going to keep that together. But from what I saw in the trailer, there's a real genuine chemistry and connection. And by the way, Gigi Gonzaga, strong Latina actress, been working since 2011, a number of projects that she's been involved in. But she's slowly now, I think with She-Hulk and with this series, going to start getting a little more notice, a little more attention from people. And so that's going to be great. Great for her career. And she looks great in the trailer and gives as good as she gets. And it's a very honest performance, which I like. Now, I didn't see Limitless. I don't know this guy too much, but I liked what I saw.
Shameless.
Shameless. I didn't see Shameless either. And I immediately liked him. And so I'm actually curious. I don't really go to CBS procedurals much. Scorpion, I think, was the last time I watched a full season of a procedural. But this one seems like I might actually watch. So I like that.
Yeah, I mean, as Vogel said, with the streaming options that we have now, network TV is kind of behind the eight ball because there are limitations on what you can do with network in terms of content, but also in terms of length. I mean, we were talking about the length of the Stranger Things episodes, and I don't think in general streamers say do whatever you want. Like there probably are some guidelines, but for the most part, if an episode comes out to an hour and 38 minutes, it comes out to an hour and 38 minutes. That's not the way it works with network television. I mean, there are times where like I'll watch a show that I performed on and I'll be like, oh, they cut out when I said, hey, because they're literally trimming seconds because they have to fit things in for commercials. And so with those limitations, I mean, broadcast TV, there are challenges with it. That being said, what we saw, I mean, I do have an affection for that James Cameron film. And obviously Steve Howie's is not Arnold Schwarzenegger. Right. But what we saw, I'm kind of like, this is the type of show that I, like John, I would give a shot to. I will definitely watch a couple of episodes. Do I imagine that I'll be on for the whole season? Based off of the recent history of network TV, probably not. But it's something I'm definitely going to give a chance to. So they haven't said when it's going to come out, I don't think. So it could be a mid-season replacement. So we either may be seeing it in September or we might be seeing it in January. But either way, True Lies coming to CBS.
Yeah.
So our second trailer, which is something we're going to be getting in just a couple of months here, is for Netflix's The Gray Man from not just the Russo brothers, but also Marcus and McFeely, the guys who wrote most of the Russo brothers Marvel films, maybe all of them. And I think they actually wrote Thor. I think there's some of the credited writers on Thor Thor: The Dark World, which John and I
Yeah.
love.
Yeah.
But this one stars Ryan
It's still sore
Gosling.
point in the Geek Buddies. It's still sore point. Yes.
Still
Ryan
mad about
Gosling.
it. Still mad about it.
Ryan Gosling, Chris Evans, Ana de Armas, Regé-Jean Page, Billy Bob Thornton, Jessica Henwick. This trailer was a little surprising for me. Like, definitely, excited. Apparently, this is the most expensive movie Netflix has ever done.
Wow.
So yeah, knowing that, and I think don't quote me on it, but I'm pretty sure it is the most expensive Netflix film that they've ever produced. Knowing that and watching what we got, I was a little taken aback. So, but I'll throw it to you, gentlemen, first. What did you all think of our first look at the Gray Man?
Mike, please.
I'm 100% on board, just based on the talent involved. I mean, both the actors and actresses in it, but mainly just the Russo brothers and Marcus and McFeely. I mean, like they to me have defined the tone of the Marvel universe. Like if you look at Winter Soldier, Civil War, Infinity War, Endgame, like that's the bar. Like that is like when you talk about whether something feels like the MCU or doesn't feel like the MCU, that's the bar to me. And it's a solid bar. Like each of those movies, they get excessively bigger or successfully and excessively bigger each time. And they nailed it. And so I feel like this is a team that really knows the stories they want to tell and can execute on any level that they want to tell it. And that combined with just looking at how much fun Ryan Gosling and Chris Evans look like they're having in the trailer, like I don't really know what makes this movie the most expensive movie that Netflix ever made, aside from paying for all that talent. I'm really curious to see where it goes, but just based on the people involved, I'm super excited. Like with the Netflix movies, and we've talked about this, they're hit or miss. They spend a lot of money, put a lot of big names in a movie, and sometimes you're like, yeah, that was not the best movie. But this one, just based on the talent involved, this is the kind of team that I would say, just let them do what they want to do. Let's see what happens. And so we are going to see what happens, but I'm very, very excited.
Yeah, I liked it. I didn't know what to expect because I know it was coming after the Mission Impossible trailer, and I was just like, why are you putting this out in the same week? This makes no sense. Let it breathe on its own. But, it's the Russo brothers, and it's Chris Evans, and it's Ryan Gosling. So, like, any week you put it out, I guess is a good week. And it got a great response, and I watched it. I really enjoyed it. I didn't do a reaction for this one because I was tired of doing reactions that day, but I liked this one. I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun to kind of sit back and see Chris Evans embracing even more of his inner villain, which we got to see in Knives Out, which was fun. Those little moments in Knives Out that he got to be villainous. Just screw you, fuck you, and stuff like that. That was fun. So to see him do more of that here in this was great. And somebody pointed out that all it takes is for a hero to put on a mustache, and all of a sudden he's a villain, and they put Henry Cavill up there and Chris Evans right next to him with the mustache. So I like that. We got the requisite Ryan Gosling shirtless shot. Having Alfred Woodard in this was really cool to see, and Billy Bob Thornton, who has been kind of lost lately. I mean, on Goliath and whatever, but like not getting into more of the mainstream stuff. So reminding people that he can play kind of a ruthless guy when he needs to. I like that aspect of it. And of course, Ana de Armas, who showed us in like 10 minutes that she had in No Time to Die how much of a badass she can be. So having her do more of that in this trailer was fun with that suit that she's wearing. But I can tell why it's the most. I mean, if you're looking at either the CGI or the actual real world explosions of those buildings and the train and the plane stuff. I mean, the plane stuff alone looks super expensive. So I can see where the money is. But for the Russo brothers, it's always, when they ventured outside of the Marvel universe, it hasn't always yielded the best results. So I'm looking forward to it. I want it to be good. So I'm going to hold out hope that it is good. But overall, I didn't see anything here that didn't make me not want to see it for sure.
Interesting. So yeah, my take is a little different, and it's not so much that I think the movie doesn't. It's
no CBS on True Lies. I mean, let's just get it out there.
Okay, different.
Just want to be clear. Just want to be clear.
Different expectations. I think you take that trailer and you remove the Russo brothers' names along with Marcus and McFeely. I think the reaction to this trailer is different. I think the trailer was, for me, surprisingly generic. I was like, this looks like kind of any other action movie. That's not to say that it doesn't look the action doesn't look good. I'm like, I just don't know what necessarily makes this different. Now I do have a theory, is that from the trailer, there is that Russo brothers, Marcus McFeely humor is trying to get out. Like, you can definitely get that with Chris Evans's character, and you can get that with that one line, with that one take that Ryan Gosling has talked about his ego being hurt. I think whoever cut the trailer together, I mean, they were kind of battling tone, because I think that this movie probably will be pretty funny, and that's not something that they wanted to necessarily highlight right at the beginning, because this is a badass action movie. So in terms of what our first look, what they were offering, I feel like they may have stumbled out of the gate a little bit. That's not to say that the movie's not going to be good, but based off of the trailer, I was left a little wanting. Now, that being said, am I going to watch this the moment it's available? Yes, because it's actually coming out in theaters for a week. It's going to be on July 15th, and then it'll be out on Netflix the following week. So this will probably be something I'll try to catch in a theater. But yeah, just based off of, what they gave us initially, I was like, I was expecting a little bit more. Whereas True Lies, I had zero expectations. And I was like, hey, that actually looked kind of fun.
So let me ask you a question.
Oh boy.
You can either go in and watch The Gray Man, or you can watch the True Lies pilot. What do you watch first?
Go in where? Where am I going?
There's an imaginary, like, at the Geek Buddies Cinerama.
Oh,
the Geek Buddies Cinerama. Rocha serves you some popcorn. I get you a nice.
What the fuck?
I'm the bartender. I'm the bartender.
Of course you're the bartender. I'm not here. Popcorn here. Popcorn.
Rocha gives you a nice thing of popcorn out of his little musical cart. I give you a nice whiskey on the rocks, and you can either go into the True Lies theater or the Gray Man theater. Of course, you're going to check them both out, but just based on excitement level that you've shown here, which one do you go into first?
You know what? I'm going to go into True Lies, because you gave me whiskey on the rocks, and I'm not a big whiskey drinker. That tells me that the people running the Geek Buddies Cinerama Dome don't necessarily know their clientele that well, so I'm going straight to True Lies.
Every single time that you have come over to my apartment in the past year, and I say, what would you like to drink? You go, what are you going to have? And I'm like, I'm have some whiskey. And you're like, yeah, I'm have a little whiskey too.
But that's when I'm in the comfort of your home. It's different when you're out at a theater.
When you're at the Geek Buddies Cinerama, it's just like being at home.
Fair enough. By the way, I've been meaning to talk to you, Michael, about that. Where our overhead is down, we seem to keep losing whiskey bottles. Where are you doing on here?
Well, stop
adding up, Michael.
Stop letting Kalinowski in for free. He's stealing all the whiskey.
Someone's got to watch those movies we don't want to put.
So that was The Gray Man.
Yeah,
and now we're getting to the trailer that we've all been wanting to talk about. We got our first look at Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning. Now, this trailer leaked the day before, and I'm ashamed to say that I was like, I thought it was fake. I was just like, oh, this must be a fake trailer. And at the beginning, I'm kind of like, well, this looks whatever fan cut this together, they did a really good job. And then after a minute, I'm like, wait a minute. Oh, this is new. This is new. So yes, we got our first look at Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning. I know we're all excited to talk about that, so I'll throw it to you gentlemen first. What did you think of our first look? Tom Cruise returning as Ethan Hunt.
Shannon as DiCaprio. Oh my God. I loved it. What a great trailer. And I thought it was going to be different from the CinemaCon trailer, but it was the same trailer they showed at a CinemaCon, but I hadn't seen it since. And so it was kind of seeing it all over again. And I still enjoyed the hell out of it. I love what we're getting here. This feels like a more mature, confident, better approach to Mission Impossible. And this is one of those rare franchises that gets better with every installment. It really is an anomaly in terms of franchises. And to see it come in with Christopher McQuarrie now having done the last two, he's doing these next two, you can tell that this is a well-oiled machine, and they know they've got to one-up themselves with every installment. It seems like that's the motivation here with this one as well. It's only part one, so I love the fact that we're getting Kittredge back. I mean, Henry Tierney coming back is so cool, and he's like on one, he's just still has obviously hurt feelings around Ethan Hunt, and he's still trying to kind of lure Ethan back into his fold or on his side. Having Isai Morales be a part of this was a real surprise. Both guys coming up in the 80s, Cruz and Morales, as young actors in the 1980s, around the same age. So nice to see them kind of still doing their thing here in 2022. All of it just felt really, really good. And I like the connections. And I have a feeling that we're going to lose Rebecca Ferguson. And that really scares me because it seems like Rebecca's going to die. And then there's a position that opens up in essence. And Haley Atwell is going to slide into that position. There's a shot with her holding the cross and she looks like she's dying. So that worries me. And Haley basically is a passenger throughout this trailer. I hope no other trailers we're going to get a little more of what her story is in the film. But overall, great stuff. Nice shades of the first Mission Impossible, the train stuff, Henry Tierney, a couple other things that kind of give you an idea that we're kind of touching base with that. But overall, fantastic trailer. Can't wait to see it. Mike?
It's an amazing trailer. My relationship with the Mission Impossible movies is so interesting because we talked about this a little bit on the text.
Yeah.
They're great. The Mission Impossible, I think everything John said is true. They get better and better. Every single one comes out. They are amazing. It's awesome. We sit in the theater. I go, oh my God, that's crazy. Holy shit. Look at that. That was awesome. This was a great movie. Oh my God. I walk out of the theater and 20 minutes later, I don't know what happened in the movie. Like it literally, for someone who comes out of these other movies who can like tell you the entire history of the Galactic Republic or, talk about the MCU in such detail, I come out of these Mission Impossible movies and like, I'm not mad at them. It's not like I'm like, I'm like, that was amazing. And then we get dinner and you'd be like, what did you think of that one part of the movie? I'd be like, what happened? What happened in it? Tell me about the movie. Like, I just don't remember. So I watched this trailer and I was like, yes, awesome. Look at that. He jumped off the cliff. I can't wait. And then I was like, what the hell happened in these other movies? Like, I have to go back and watch all the Mission Impossible movies. And it's not a ding on the movies as much as a ding on me. I don't know what it is about these movies that I'm like, they're all spectacular. I don't remember what happened.
Wow. Shannon?
I mean, I have the same reaction.
Wow.
Like starting at Ghost Protocol, the movies kind of really took off, and to me, to this day, I think Ghost Protocol is still my favorite, because that was the introduction, I think, of Simon Pegg's character, right?
Yes.
Was that the first time we met him?
Jamie, whatever his name is.
Benji.
Benji.
I love the trio of Ving Rhames, Simon Pegg, and Tom Cruise. Like I was like, that trio, I enjoy watching. But it's also the type of franchise that I'll see them once, I never need to see it again, because it's like it's a ride that I'll go on one time, and if I watch it again, which is what I did with, oh my God, what was the last one called? It's not Skyfall, that's the Bond movie. Blackout.
Fallout.
Yeah. So Jesus. I know. Look, I mean, Mission Impossible is like James Bond for me. Like I am just not connected to that genre for whatever reason, unless it's True Lies on CBS.
Well, I mean, come on, we gotta have a standard. You gotta have a standard somewhere.
But watching those movies, like I remember I went to see Fallout again. I'm like, oh man, this is so awesome. And it got to the end with that helicopter chase. I'm like, hey, I gotta go.
But the Schwarzenegger True Lies on the jet with the dude sitting on the nose, that you're okay with.
No. It's not a problem of me suspending my disbelief. It's just length. After a while, I'm like, it's a lot. It's a lot of movie. I mean, the whole Halo jump sequence, like that was amazing. And to know that how many of these stunts Tom Cruise is doing, I'm like, that's awesome. And like Vogel said, like this was a great trailer. I can't wait to watch this movie once and probably never again. But it was awesome. I love Haley Atwell. She is one of my recent favorite performers, going back to First Avenger. So anything that she's in, I will definitely check out. And the idea that she could be, as you theorized, John, that she could be a part of the team, I'm like, great. This will definitely keep me coming back. And like, I give Kalinowski grief about Tom Cruise ever since the first Jack Reacher, where he did a shirtless shot. And I'm like, maybe it's time to stop doing those. So I like to poke fun at Kalinowski. Like Kalinowski thinks I hate Tom Cruise. I'm like, no, I don't. I think Tom Cruise is actually very, very good actor, very watchable. I just think it's okay to recognize, like, hey, maybe I don't play this type of role anymore. And especially with Fallout, he seemed to have embraced the fact that he's an older guy. I mean, that that
Just
fight in the
close-up.
bathroom.
Yeah.
Like there were a couple of great shots of him just kind of like, oh God, here we go again. Like I think that's what he needs to lean into because that's what's very entertaining right now.
It is. I mean, like Tom Cruise is just an anomaly, though. Like, I mean, let's just call it like I agree with you, and I've had those moments where he's shirtless or running, or you see him in a certain shot, and you're like, Tom Cruise, you're getting up there. Like, I don't know if you should be doing this anymore. Like, you can't really be playing these roles. But fuck me, because he clearly can. Like, I'm excited to go see him do it. Like, I can't wait to go see Maverick this weekend. Yeah. And I'm like, I saw him in the trailer, and Tom Cruise is like, yeah, I'm going to fly a jet or jump off a cliff or go to, like, Tom Cruise could be like, I'm going to go to space in real life and just record it. And I'd be like, yeah, sure. Like, Tom Cruise, like, he's just an anomaly. He can do whatever he wants, apparently, and we are all going to watch it.
Yeah, you guys are gonna love it because what you spoke about in the that attracted you in his performance in the last Mission Impossible film, elements of that are there in Top Gun Maverick for sure, and I think that's what makes the film, in my opinion, superior to the original. As much as I love the original, I rewatched it last night with a bunch of my patrons because they hadn't seen it. We rewatched it together, and it's because he's made this change, this adjustment. He understands now all the criticism and all of that. I think The Mummy really kind of shook him, and I think that could woke him up to the fact like
good because it shook the rest of us too,
for damn sure. But it's like this is wrong. This doesn't look correct, and so you've got to kind of embrace a little bit more. And it seems like he's been doing that more and more. And just a little bit about the box office before we wrap up here on this topic. Now, Mission Impossible 2 made more than Mission Impossible 1, which is a heartbreaking statistics. It's the worst of them all. But Mission Impossible 3 kind of coming back after the whole Tom Cruise, Oprah Winfrey situation, making $400 million. Then Ghost Protocol, $694 million. Rogue Nation, $688. The most recent Fallout, $787 million worldwide. So they're not stopping this train anytime soon. And I think this late in life, Tom Cruise has found his Scorsese in Christopher McQuarrie, because McQuarrie is executive producer and did a bunch of passes on the Top Gun Maverick script. And this guy understands how to use Tom Cruise effectively. If I was Tom Cruise, because I got a lot of money, I would not do another movie without Christopher McQuarrie involved in some way, shape, or form, because he understands how to bring out the best in Tom and to let him be vulnerable and understand that it doesn't take away from his overall strength and power as an actor and as a presence on screen. So yeah.
Wow.
I think not for nothing. I mean, like I think you're 100% right, but I think also there's the thing when you are a movie star at the caliber of Tom Cruise, anybody, whoever it is, who you trust to tell you what to do, like because these are people who like you go in, like no one's going to tell Tom Cruise what to do unless Tom Cruise is going to let you tell him what to do. Right. Like he's Tom Cruise. So if you find that person that you trust, that you're like, oh, this person can be like, Tom, don't do that. Like, this is what's good. Like, ride that out as long as you can, because I think that's the biggest thing about celebrity is you reach a point, whether you're in front of the screen or behind the screen, where you get to the point where like you're so big that either people are afraid to tell you when you're making a misstep or you just don't want to listen to them. And so when you do find those relationships, you stick with that.
Yeah. It's like Schwarzenegger with Cameron. You know, Cameron is one of the few guys that can tell Arnie what to do and what not to do. And fine. I mean, he found it later in life, Tom Cruise with McQuarrie, but you know, I mean, he found him, and I bet he's not going to let him go. Yeah.
Or as Shannon will tell us, how McGee is with the pilot of True Lies.
True Lies.
Oh yeah, big time. I mean, McGee and Matt Nix have been working together quite a bit, but we don't need to go down that rabbit. Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning comes out July 14th, 2023.
All right, there you go. That's our first 3 geek news items. That took us almost 15 minutes to get through. Let's take a quick break and jump into talking about the Thor Love and Thunder trailer that dropped just a couple of days ago. We're right back right after this. Do you got this one?
Yeah, Sweet Child of Mine.
Oh, was that? That was Sweet Child of Mine?
Anyways,
that's wow. As someone
I got it.
Of the 3 of us who wasn't in diapers when that song came out, I don't think you got it, but whatever. Let's move on. Thor Love and Thunder trailer dropped this past Monday. I think Monday, wasn't it? Yeah, during the NBA playoffs game between the Celtics and the Heat. And this one brought the hammer and brought the fire, really giving us Gore the God Butcher. There are first shots of Christian Bale looking a little bit different from the comics, but different faces were certainly seen for Gore the God Butcher throughout the trailer. A little more with Korg kind of telling the story as if he's sitting around a campfire. A lot more with Jane Foster as Thor. Still no reason why she's wielding the hammer or what's going on, but we see Mjolnir having the cracks in it from where Hela destroyed it, being a part of it. We see more with Valkyrie there, with Tessa Thompson kind of teaming. It almost seems like the Revengers are been reunited in a new format there, with Korg taking Hulk's spot. And then on the other end, Loki moving out for Jane Foster. And then we get a little more with Russell Crowe, who has a great moment with him, with Hemsworth stripping off his clothes there for everybody to fall and faint about. But we also got to see some incredible visuals from Taika Waititi. I'm thinking of the shot where Thor is in the purple there near the end of the trailer, jumping up there with Stormbreaker. I'm thinking of the shot, the black and white stuff with Gore the God Butcher fighting Valkyrie and her thunder. We see the rams, we see all the goats and all that kind of stuff all through this trailer. So, gentlemen, what are your thoughts as you walk away having seen this trailer now? What are we getting from Thor Love and Thunder?
I mean, it was so much fun. And I'm wondering if this is sort of the quickest turnaround from a teaser to a trailer that we've gotten. Maybe. Because it's only been like a month, I think, that the teaser came out. But it just looks like it looks like so much fun. And watching that interaction, the discovery that Chris Hemsworth is funny. And watching them lead into this or lean into it for this trailer, like when Valkyrie asked if he's having feelings and he's what that sort of uncomfortable noises that dudes will make when they're confronted with feelings. It just looks like it's going to be so much fun. I mean, I love how much in the teaser they leaned on the Guardians, and in this one we only saw a couple of quick shots of them. Jane looks incredible. You could tell Natalie Portman's been hitting the weights, but just also that sort of that uneasiness that the two of them have chatting again, more from Thor's side because according to the fan in Thor Ragnarok, Jane dumped him. Yes, but also that first look at Gore the God Butcher. I mean, he looks like Mac Shrek coming out of Nosferatu. I mean, he looks he looks so freaking scary, and it's just such a great juxtaposition, this eerie, dark, black and white world that Gore lives in versus this vibrant color that Thor is coming from. The moment where it looks like right before their big battle, and he just kind of gives him this sort of weak little point, and Thor gives him that, all right, let's do this, let's do this, come hither. It just looks like it's going to be such a blast. And watching how much Mount Olympus is going to play into this, like my assumption was this is going to be a quick sequence, and based off of the trailer, it looks like they actually spent a little bit of time there. And I'm pretty sure Russell Crowe's trying to do a Greek accent.
Is that what he's doing? Okay,
I think
he doesn't sing. I think I'm okay.
Oh god, I could be wrong, but that moment where now we see who you are, flick. Showing muscly butts is something Taika Waititi I think likes to do because he had it with a Hulk and Ragnarok, and now with Thor as well.
Yeah,
Love and Thunder are the name of his cheeks.
The left don't get you, the right one will. That's for damn sure. Plus, he's got a Loki tattoo on his body.
Yes, plus he's got the Loki tattoo, which gets overlooked because everyone's talking about the butt. But that Loki tattoo really took me somewhere. I was like, oh.
Here we go.
Yeah, I think it looks amazing. For the people that are like, Gore the God Butcher doesn't look like he did in the comic, like, okay, calm down. Like, okay, so Christian Bale has a nose, but like, look at how cool that looks. Like, just all the black and white, how like, it seems like whenever he's like using, whether it's when he's using like the what do you call it? The all black, his blade, the all black
sword
sword that he has.
Yeah.
If that's like sucking the light out of every, like whatever it is, like it looks awesome. Like it looks really, really fantastic. And seeing, it's a weird, like Taika Waititi does such a great job of balancing like extremes. So whether it's like Jojo Rabbit, where you're taking like the horror of Hitler and the Holocaust and balancing it out with some real, like really crazy humor, here you've got like this rom-com vibe going on between Jane and Thor as they're reunited. And then you have this like epically dark shit going on with Gore, who is a character that, as he says in the comics, you know, the only gods care only about themselves. I vow to kill all gods. You know, like he's got a whole mission here, and just the craziness of everything that's going on. I mean, you've got all the cool stuff with Asgard. You've got Valkyrie looking bored and diving back into the fray. You have that awesome shot of Valkyrie fighting Gore. Everything's in black and white except her, and she's fighting him with Zeus's lightning bolt. Like, you're like, okay, well, I don't know how we get here, but that's amazing. And just for anybody who knows the Gore the God Butcher story, like it's a pretty awesome and epic tale. And so here's this character who's showing up who actually has a pretty awesome and interesting backstory in the comic that leads him to this journey that he's on that I'm sure we'll get some version of in the movie. But it does seem that a big difference just based on this trailer is, you know, Jane as Thor is not in that story. Like there's the Mighty Thor story, which is the Jane story. And then there's, I think it's Thor God of Thunder, I believe, that's the Gore the God Butcher story. And so it does seem here, just based on the way the trailer is being cut together, that Thor and his relationship with Jane is sort of key to the defeat of Gore in some way. So I'm really curious to see how that's going to play. Yeah. You know, they haven't really explained why Jane gets the hammer in this story. And I do think, and we've talked about this a little bit, one of the things that I like most about the Mighty Thor story, the Jane becoming Thor story, is the whole fact that Jane Foster has cancer. And just with everything going on in this version of the story, I either don't know if they're going to have time to do it, or I'm wondering if that's sort of one of the reveals of the movie, that we sort of don't see her as Jane Foster without the hammer until there's some sort of reveal later on or something. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. But yeah, it's just like this trailer is just a wealth of riches. And, you know, between the Guardians, Jane, Korg having a major role, Valkyrie having a much bigger role, Thor going through whatever his god life crisis is, and then Christian Bale, like the faces he's got in this trailer, like it's another one of those, like, I don't know how they're fitting all this in one movie, but with Taika Waititi, I'm pretty sure they will.
Yeah, and the black and white thing works so well for Gore because, you know, this idea of seeing the world as black and white. Gods are bad. I have to kill them. There's no question. There's no kind of issue or struggle. And even near the end, he's like, I've never faced a god like you, which is a nice little moment there. But overall, this is what he's going for. And this is going to be fascinating to see how, because I think that might be something that appeals to people. People might have like a connection to what Gore is talking about. You know, people have defended Thanos, some people on the show, and some people have defended Killmonger. So we're seeing that the way they're solving their villain problem in the Marvel universe lately is having some semblance of truth, or you can understand their point of view, I guess, more than anything else. May not agree, but certainly understand. And we may have this with Gore as we in our real world lives are looking at people in power and people who have, you know, kind of control of our country or our world, kind of messing with that control and abusing that control. And so this idea, you can believe why someone would want to eliminate gods, because gods are not getting involved with the lower life forms or down on the ground life forms, because they see everything from above. So you see that point of view, and I love that. Oh, sorry, Mike, you want to jump in?
Well, no, I was going to say, just to your point, like, I mean, I think if you're on Twitter, everybody saw it, like that one guy who tweeted a comparison of Zack Snyder's Zeus to Russell Crowe's
Zeus.
We go. And just got all bent out of shape about it. But to your point, I mean, there's a reason why this version of Zeus is going in the direction that it is, because in the story, that is the thing, is that the gods, it's not even that they are looking at everything from a bigger view or anything like that. Like in this story, Gore's beef is that the gods don't even care about humans or aliens or mortals in general are praying to gods and hoping for things and asking for things. And it's not that the gods are choosing some or others. It's that gods don't even care. The gods are only interested in glorifying themselves and having their own squabbles and doing their godlike things. So when you see Russell Crowe's depiction of Zeus, you're like, yeah, this seems like a character that kind of proves Gore's point.
Yeah.
And so as we can tell from the trailers, this whole movie is like a journey of Thor figuring out who he is. And even in this version, Korg opening up the trailer, kind of telling those alien children that story of Thor, who is like, is this god, and kind of refers to him as a god. Like, what it means to be a god and what it means to be a good god seems to be kind of central to what this story is going to be about.
It's a great point, Mike. I also want to get that shirt that says "Dad bod to God bod." I want that shirt immediately because that was a great moment. But yeah, you talk about Gore. He's connected to Null. Null is the creator of the symbiote. He got his power and all his mission kind of from Null, and so they don't have the kind of they don't have the rights to Null. So I wonder how they're going to adjust his origin story, as you mentioned earlier here, Mike. And you've got the Necro Sword being a part of this. How is this all going to work itself out? And then, of course, we get the Parliament of the Pantheons there at the end, where a majority of stuff happens. And that may be where we see this connection of all the gods, because that's supposedly where the Greek and the Egyptian, which we got in Moon Knight, and other gods show up here in this Parliament of Pantheon. So this could be a really interesting way to tie all these disparate elements that we've seen in all these other properties under the Marvel umbrella into one place, and kind of have the blueprint now going forward of how they're going to address these gods and how all of these gods can exist here at the same time in the Marvel universe.
Yeah, I mean, so to your point, Led, the sword in the comic, the sword that Gore, the God Butcher, uses that gives him his ability to slay gods is called the All Black, and it's the sword of Null, who is the god of the symbiotes, which is the Venom people.
Yes, and the cards.
But in the storyline, when they first introduce it, like, Gore doesn't even really know what he has. He just finds this sword and he uses it. So you can see, even with like the black tendrils and stuff around him, I don't know how much they're going to lean into that or lean away from it. But the fact that that's where the sword comes from isn't necessarily super important to the story, as much as just Gore finds this sword on a god that gives him this ability. So it allows them to sort of, if they choose for reasons to want to lean into that, particularly now that we know at the end of Spider-Man No Way Home that there is at least a little bit of a symbiote in the MCU, they could. But also, I think if they want to lean away from that and just keep it completely sort of separate, they also could.
Yeah.
When you're talking about the Pantheon of Gods, you're talking about that big sort of chamber that they're in a couple shots with all, or the Parliament of Gods. Because like you do, like they go into that, you see Jane and Valkyrie kind of go into this big sort of chamber that has all those faces carved into the walls, and I think somebody pointed out online you can even see Uatu from What If in the background, and I do think that's going to be really interesting, because I wonder if, and maybe we don't at all, but is this where we start to see where the introduction of some of these other pantheons, like in Moon Knight, or the everything going on in Eternals at that cosmic level, do we sort of get hints of where we're going with any of this and all these things coming together?
Black Panther 2 as well. The connection there. The Living Tribunal is in that sequence that you're talking about. You're seeing that, and that's the third time that's been referenced, because it was referenced in Loki and Doctor Strange too. So it's going to be curious to see how that can. I mean, it's a lot, dude. Like, it's a lot to be. I mean, I was initially for this. Yes, people are going to be involved, but now it's starting to become like really, really big. So in a way, they're going to have to kind of streamline it a little bit, so that you can at least have an idea to latch onto and move forward to the other storylines that are going through these properties. But it's a lot. So I wonder if this is their way of kind of bringing everything together here. It's kind of, keeping it into one line.
It could be, or it could be not. I mean, like, it's partially part of the reason it's a lot is because you have a bunch of assholes like us on YouTube going through these trailers and kind of talking about every single thing that we see and talking about what we think it is. But more often than not, when we actually get to the movies tend to be a little bit more straightforward and streamlined than we're expecting them to be, and really focus on the story at hand. So I think that even with Thor Love and Thunder, even if there's hints to these bigger things, or if they go into this parliament and they, we kind of get the hint of the bigger cosmic elements, I think this is very much a Thor and Jane story. You know, I mean, at the end of the day, there's a lot going on with Gore and his sword and all the statues, and does this tie into this, and does this tie into the Eternals? But at the end of the day, this is a dude and his ex-girlfriend getting back together and going on an adventure. And I think that for Taika Waititi, that's the main thing that's going to make this work. And for audiences that are wider than just the core nerd audience, I think that's what's going to make this movie work.
Yeah. Or the other side of it is that they're not maybe getting back together. They're just understanding that they had a great time together and they want to stay friends. And even that moment of them holding pinkies, people's like, oh, it's the greatest rom-com ever. There's a real possibility that this is about Thor maturing past the idea of being with Jane because of what happened and accepting that that was a great time in his life and he really respects her now as a person, human being, and all of that. But it's time for him to move on and for her to move on separately. And that's also a good positive message to send out into the world as well after breakups. So it could be something they could
and there's also the possibility that both of them don't make it out of this movie.
Oh, there's a strong statement.
I mean, Korg's telling a story in the past tense. I mean, so there's certainly the possibility that one of them doesn't make it out. And do I think they would kill Chris Hemsworth off? No, I think if you can keep one of those original Avengers whose movies are only getting better, I think they probably want to hold on to him, and vice versa for Chris Hemsworth. I mean, outside of Marvel, he hasn't had a true hit. So I think, and also the fact that he's getting to have more fun as Thor, that he's found a really good partner in Taika Waititi, that they will hopefully continue to be able to tell Thor stories. But there's nothing saying that Jane's going to make it out. I mean, there's no saying that Valkyrie is going to make Korg. I think is safe, but Valkyrie, Thor, or Jane, any one of those folks could go off the table.
It would be a straight Taika Waititi move to give you a character like Korg that we think is hilarious and funny and oh, isn't he great, and actually give him a death that we're all bawling in the movie theater and going like, I can't believe the Korg death got me. Like that's a straight Taika move right there. He would totally do that.
You know what's going to happen? Those alien kids aren't going to like the story. They're going to rip them apart.
Go on with it, man. Go on with it, me. You can make it, man. That's the best I got. I'm sorry. It's terrible. Anyway, anything more to say on this trailer as we wrap up? Anything more we didn't talk about that you guys want to highlight?
Well, I mean, they released the poster as well. And,
yes, they did.
You know, Marvel does get dinged a lot for their Photoshop posters. And to be honest, I mean, this is a Photoshop poster, but this is a Photoshop poster done really well. I mean, this looks like the type of cover to like a VHS during the 80s when you had the proliferation of video stores. This is the type of movie that as a kid, you would have seen that and been like, oh my gosh, what is that? I mean, it looks like a heavy metal album cover, all the way back with Christian Bale with his yellow eyes and his black spittle coming out of his mouth.
Almost in the Vader position of those old school Star Wars.
Posters. 100%. Yeah.
I love the confident look of Natalie here. It's so great. She's got that kind of the arm resting on the knee thing is confident. Valkyrie sliding in, Korg, and the kind of almost in the, I don't know, almost Star Trek like, when you're being transported, that kind of thing. And
or the Rainbow Bridge.
Yeah, the Rainbow, sure. The Bifrost is what you're trying to say, I think, Mike.
Yeah, sure. check your Greek mythology. Check your Norse mythology. It's a rainbow bridge. But no, Stormbreaker. Well, because Stormbreaker is its own Bifrost. Like Stormbreaker, he can do his thing. I do think you are right, and I think that in as much as we're excited about what the trailer is showing us, I do think that there is probably some hints into what the trailer's not showing us. And even though we've seen Jane looking awesome as Thor and wielding that hammer and doing some really cool moves, particularly where she tosses the hammer and all the individual pieces of Mjolnir fly out to take out those Greek guards and then come back, like that's a pretty badass move. But we're getting very little information on the why and the how of it all. And I think that, to Shannon's point about what might be happening in the movie and what the story arc is, like, I think that what's going on with Jane is probably a little bit of the heart of this movie that they're keeping in reserve. Yeah,
that's a great point, Mike. I'm sure they're holding it because, I mean, Taika Waititi came out the next day after the trailer and said, we are following Jane's story from the comics when she got the Hammer. So
he did? Okay, good.
He did say
I was very curious because that's such a core part of what people love about her story. And just in watching everything they're dealing with here, I was like, are they really going to be able to service that? But that does sort of make sense. I do think that Thor discovering why Jane has Mjolnir and what's happening and what's going on with her and not knowing that at the beginning, I think that's going to be a big piece of the heart of this movie.
Yeah, agreed. Shannon, anything more to say? We're good.
Nah, man. I mean, this will be the first Thor movie without Loki.
Yeah, well, he got his tattoo. So
there you go. I strike the statement.
He's there in spirit.
Right next to Love and Thunder.
Any surprises, real quick? Any surprises? Any surprise persons do you think might show up in this? I mean, Wong is becoming the Samuel L. Jackson of the new phases. So you imagine Wong will show up in this?
I would have no issue if Wong showed up. That would be great.
You know what's great about this is like we already know the Guardians are there, which is cool and gives us that sort of MCU connection. Yeah. But I mean, I love what Taika's done with Thor's universe so much that like, if anybody does show up, it's gravy. But I'm not going into this movie like, oh, I hope we see so-and-so, I hope we see so-and-so. Like, I'm just genuinely excited for this specific story.
Yeah, and thinking that however long Thor's been gone with the Guardians, like a whole bunch of stuff has happened on Earth that he wasn't present for, like Westview that Darcy was involved with. Do we get to see a Darcy-Jane reunion?
Maybe, yeah. A Khonshu appearance is possible. I mean, there's a lot that could be in play here for sure. So we'll see. All right. Well, there you go. That's our episode of the Geek Buddies. Thank you all so much for joining us. We appreciate it madly. Shannon, what do we have to tell them?
Yeah, if you'd like to follow us on social media, on Twitter, it's @geek_buddies, on Instagram @the_geek_buddies. If you'd like to follow me on social media, on Twitter, it's @Shannon_McClung, on Instagram @Shannon the Geek Buddy. If you would like to follow Mr. Vogel, it is @MKToon. If you would like to follow Mr. Rocha, it is @TheRochaSays.
Mikey?
Listen, if you want to support your friend Shannon McClung and his love for True Lies coming this fall on CBS, we have some things that you guys can do for us to help keep Shannon going until this show that he is so anxious for comes out. So please hit the like button below, subscribe to Johnny's Outlaw Nation page, and check out all the awesome content he's got there. Leave your comments below, particularly letting Shannon know how excited you are for True Lies this fall on CBS. If you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or anywhere podcasts are available, leave us some stars, leave us some comments, particularly if it's about True Lies coming this fall on CBS. And the best thing that you guys can do is retweet this video, post it on your socials, send it to your friends, tell them to check out True Lies coming this fall on CBS, and that they should hang out with your buddies, the Geek Buddies.
I mean, I like Shannon using our show as essentially a lobbying to be cast in that show in one of the upcoming episodes. I appreciate that. We were gonna push that trailer to the end and maybe cut it, but Shannon started off with it, so he wanted it to make the show, so it made the show. Crafty man that he is. So
I'm calling Ginger right after this.
There you go, and big shout out to Carbon Health, who continues to support us here for the for the last few months. They've been so great, and so go and support them. Go to carbonhealth.com. See if they've got a clinic near you. You know, the numbers are going up with testing with COVID. Go and get tested. Go and get those test packs. They got them for a good price. I think it's 2 for $19.95. Go and get them. So make sure you're okay. You're not getting this thing. And also you can go and get checked out with any kind of healthcare needs you need. Go and get it addressed there by Carbon Health. Get their app on your phones. Anything that happens healthcare wise, you can go and use the app and see if there's a clinic near you, or if you can get some virtual care there. They've got 100 plus clinics all over the country, 50 plus clinics in California alone. Get that doc in your pocket. Once again, carbonhealth.com. Tell them the Geek Buddies sent you, because we love you. All right, take care of yourselves. Be well. And we'll talk to you next time with another brand new episode here from the
Geek
True Lies! I mean, Buddies!